We now welcome in Congressman Paul Broun from the 5th Congressional District in the great state of Georgia. Congressman, welcome, sir.
Hey, Steve. It's the 10th, by the way, but I'm.
Well, I'll have to double. I'll just double it. I'm sorry.
Okay.
they put 5 in front of me, so I'll just double it, and I apologize for that.
And now I'm running for the U.S. Senate.
Yeah, I know that. I know that. I was going to get to that. Was the next.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I know you're running for the Senate seat vacated, and we'll talk about that. But I just want to. I'd be remiss, and of course, in your capacity, I believe you're on the House Homeland Security Committee.
Right.
And I just want to ask you about the Edward Snowden affair. It's the opinion of John Bolton that we should send a message to Russia by punishing China. Because the White House said today that our relationship with China has been damaged over this, and Bolton suggests we recall our ambassador from China ASAP to show Russia there will be consequences, real consequences, if they don't cooperate with us here. What's your take on all of this?
My take is that the news is paying attention to Edward Snowden, and they're trying to get the focus upon away from what's going on with NSA. In fact, no one is disputing the existence of the programs that Snowden has told us about, and we've got to make sure that American citizens' constitutionally protected rights are maintained. And if NSA is infringing upon those rights, then Snowden is a whistleblower, and his efforts should be applauded. If NSA is complying with the constitutional protections that it's supposed to be, then he's guilty of breaking the law and maybe even of treason, as some have proposed. But we've got to get back to what the focus should be. We already know that the NSA has these programs that are gathering masses of amounts of data of U.S. citizens without apparently without a court order. We've just got to get all the answers before anybody comes to some kind of judgment about Snowden, about this whole program. But no one. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You finish.
Well, the thing is, before anybody jumps to judgment, as people are doing, I have a tremendous respect for Ambassador Bolton. He's a good friend, actually, and has been for a number of years. But before we jump to conclusions about any of this, we need to start we need to get all the facts in order so that we know what actually is going on. And if the NSA is violating people's constitutional rights, then the people at NSA need to be held accountable and not Snowden. But if he broke the law and the NSA is doing things that are constitutional, then Snowden ought to be prosecuted. But
Congressman, does Snowden may not even be aware if there's actual violations. I mean, he may not have liked what he saw, but was the proper thing to do to go to Hong Kong and talk to the media and probably be debriefed by China and now be debriefed by Russia? I mean, couldn't he have tried to go to people like you? Shouldn't he tried at least to have approached his congressman or his senator or somebody, and then maybe, if all else failed, do what he did? And I don't even know if I'd go along with that, but he didn't do any of that. I mean, he's judge, jury, and I guess information provider for the world and for our enemies.
Well, that may or may not be true, and we don't know what kind of efforts he went through to try to get this out. And that's the thing. We need to get to the bottom of it and get the facts before we go to judgment on Snowden. But we still have to focus upon these programs that appear to be violating people's Fourth Amendment rights, where the NSA is gathering huge amounts of information, they're storing it, and we have absolutely no idea about who they're gathering information on. It is apparent that they are gathering on phone records on pretty much all Americans, that they're looking at emails, is what's claimed here. All those things are violations of the Fourth Amendment. So we've got to get the information and get the facts before we jump to judgment on anybody or what they're doing. And in fact, Justin Amash and I have, and there are others who have introduced the Liberty Act, which would stop this general practice of surveillance. And we've got to make sure that people's constitutional rights are protected. And that's the bottom line for me, is let's get to the bottom of what NSA is actually doing, because we really don't know at this point. And so let's find out if they are violating the Fourth Amendment rights of Americans and doing things that they're not supposed to be doing. And if they are, then we must stop them from doing so.
We're talking to Congressman Paul Broun, representing the 10th Congressional District of the state of Georgia. He's also running for the U.S. Senate, and here on the Steve Malzberg Show. And is this all part of what you introduced on Friday, an amendment to the 2014 National Defense Authorization Act, which would make it illegal for the Department of Defense to use a drone to kill an American citizen?
Well, of course, that's a different issue, but I did introduce that amendment to the fiscal year 14 National Defense Authorization Act, and it was actually put into the House bill, and hopefully it will stay in there once the conference committee comes together between the House and the Senate. We have already seen, and it's been admitted by this administration, that they have acted as judge, jurors, and executioners of American citizens. And American citizens, no matter how bad they are guaranteed the right of due process. We should never, ever let any branch of the federal government act without having due process for American citizens. And what my amendment does is it says that the government cannot use drones to kill American citizens unless they are actively engaged in combat. That's the only exception. So if somebody is on the battlefield, actively engaged in conflict, then we can utilize drones in that case, but no other to kill American citizens without due process.
Well, you and I are on the same page with that one. Let me ask you about immigration. Of course, we could expect a vote probably tomorrow or later today in the Senate on an amendment that they say will toughen border security, although, of course, we already have a law that says a fence will be built. All kinds of revelations coming out. First of all, Janet Napolitano would not have to enforce that or build the fence or do anything if she didn't want to. There's a report here that says, and this is from Byron York of the Washington Examiner, that the bottom line is an immigrant could have more than 3 misdemeanor convictions in his background check and still qualify for legalization. We know now that there's another amendment that is basically another Obama jobs bill that has been slid into this legislation. Where are you, sir, on the immigration reform?
Well, first and foremost, you brought up a good point. We already have laws on the books. We must start enforcing the laws that we have. And until we literally secure the border, nothing else matters. In the Senate bill, what it does is it says that the government will secure the border or have a plan or whatever they come up with in an amendment. But the whole bill is predicated on giving amnesty to these illegal aliens. They're not immigrants. They're illegal aliens. They're lawbreakers. The only new law we need on the books today is one that makes English the official language of America. We must pass that into law. And until we secure the borders, nothing else matters. I will not vote for amnesty, and that's what the Senate bill does. I don't think we're going to see the Senate bill in the House, frankly. I don't know what the House is going to do. I know that our Speaker, Congressman Boehner, wants to have some immigration bills passed. The chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Bob Goodlatte from Virginia, is talking about doing it in pieces. In other words, have one bill on border security. But as you mentioned, we already have a law that says the border must be secured.
Right, and it's like it's like gun legislation, sir. I mean, we have 20,000 gun laws. The police chief of Chicago says we have people that commit gun crimes. We let them out in a year because we have no jail space, but they keep wanting to pass more and more laws. It's insane. But let me ask you about immigration one more. And
sure.
This is my theory, and I think until Republicans understand this, like the people who advise presidential candidates, we will never win another election. But it won't be because immigration reform won't pass. If immigration reform passes, Congressman, there's going to be stuff left out of it that the Democrats and the liberals and La Raza would want in it. For instance, the amendment that says you could bring your, if you're gay or homosexual, you could bring your partners and various others. So the second the bill's passed, the Democrats will go to the floor and say, hey, okay, we got this. We would have had this and that and the other, you Hispanics, but the evil Republicans said no. So no matter how much the Republicans give, they're going to be right back in the same boat as before they okayed whatever they okayed. And The CBO says 40 more million immigrants in 20 years. 95% of them are going to vote Democrat. So to me, it's political suicide.
Absolutely. You got that just absolutely correct as far as I'm concerned. In fact, I don't understand why Republicans are embracing this, because what it's going to do is destroy our country. It's going to destroy a constitutionally limited government that I've been fighting for ever since I've been in Congress 6 years now. We've got to reduce the size and scope of government, and this is going to expand it because it's going to Robert Rector from Heritage did a study, and he estimates that over the life of the illegal aliens who are here in this country, it's going to cost taxpayers over $6 trillion to legalize those people that are here in this country. We must not do that. That's the reason I will not vote for the Senate bill if it does get to the House floor, and I'm not going to vote for amnesty. You're exactly correct in the way you've evaluated this bill.
Well, Congressman, now talk a little bit about your Senate run. That's going to be very exciting for you, and I'm sure you're full steam ahead on that.
Yes, in fact, I announced my candidacy back in February, and what Georgia's going to do, it's going to elect the most conservative Republican to the U.S. Senate. A Democrat cannot win. That's the reason the Democrat Party has had such a difficult time even recruiting a top-level candidate, and they don't have any. They've already gone down to second, third, or fourth level candidates. A Republican's going to win. The most conservative Republican's going to win, and that's going to be me. The reason it's going to be me is because I believe in the Constitution as a founding father's been. I believe in the enumerated powers that are expressed in Article 1, Section 8, where our founding fathers said these are the things that Congress can vote upon. It's only 18 things. We should have a strong national defense. Congress should be making sure that our foreign affairs are in the best interest of this nation and voting on only those 18 things in Article 1, Section 8. My job should be a part-time job. I should be practicing medicine here in Georgia full-time and going to Washington just to make sure that those things are in place. And the powers not specifically given to the federal government by the Constitution are prohibited from the states or reserved for the states or the people. That's what the 10th Amendment says.
Right.
So what I've been doing is working to find bridges to send those powers back to the states or the people. I'm the only candidate in this race who has a legislative record of trying to reduce the size of government. I've got the strongest balanced budget amendment of the Constitution in the U.S. House, probably all of Congress. My jobs bill would infuse over $2 trillion of real money into our economy, not this funny money that the Fed's doing, but real money that's being held offshore by multinational corporations because of a higher tax rate. It would create millions of new jobs, and we do that by lowering corporate taxes, capital gains taxes, and death taxes to zero, and allowing businesses an immediate write-off of capital expenditures. I've got my Patient Option Act that would get the federal government out of the healthcare business totally. It'll make healthcare cheaper for everyone. It will provide coverage for all Americans. It's going to save Medicare for going broke. I've been in the trenches trying to stop this out-of-control spending that both parties are guilty of doing. We're headed to an economic collapse of our country if we don't stop this. That's the reason I'm running for the U.S. Senate. I'm fighting for liberty. I'm fighting for the future of this nation. I'm trying to stop this economic meltdown that we're headed towards. That's what Georgians want. Once we raise enough money to get our message out to the rank-and-file voters, I will be elected, and people can go on my website, paulbroun.com. It's B-R-O-U-N, Paul Brown. My family either can't spell or can't pronounce. I'm not sure which, but it's Paul, P-A-U-L-B-R-O-U-N.com.
Right.
People can contribute. They can sign up for email newsletters, be a friend on Facebook, can follow me on Twitter. And I encourage people to go on paulbroun.com, P-A-U-L-B-R-O-U-N, and contribute to our campaign so I can go join friends of mine in the Senate, people like Mike Lee from Utah, Rand Paul from Kentucky, Ted Cruz from Texas, Ron Johnson from Wisconsin, to fight for liberty, fight for fiscal sanity, to stop this out-of-control government.
Well, those are good friends to have, and you're right now we're booming into Atlanta on News Talk 1160 because they're a great affiliate of ours. So your message is getting out. Congressman, come back. I appreciate your time, sir.
Well, thank you so much. I've been endorsed by Ron Paul, Dr. Ron Paul, our colleague from the House. I've been endorsed by TeaParty.net, Gun Owners of America, and National Association of Gun Rights has endorsed me. I am the #1 member of the U.S. House on the Club for Gross rating sheet as a defender of economic freedom. I'm one of 29 members of the House that Heritage Action has rated as conservative sentinels. None of the other candidates have any of those things. So I am the guy that Georgians will elect once we get enough money. So paulbroun.com, people can contribute.
B-R-O-U-N.
That's it.
You know, it reminds me of Anthony Hardaway. His mother couldn't spell Anthony, so it was Anthony. But,
Anthony, my wife of 28 years, Nikki Brown, says I ought to change my first name spelling to P-A-W-L, and it would really freak everybody out. But it's PAULBROUN.com.
Congress.